Thanks for joining us, Coach. If you could give us a recap of the Magic City Classic this past Saturday and preview your road trip at Jackson.
Yeah, well, what a fantastic event, man. What a fantastic weekend it was. The Magic City Classic was my first one, and it was, from top to bottom, it was just exciting. It's a class event. I was thrilled to be a part of it. I was thrilled at the outcome. It just made for a really special week. We spent some time working on fundamentals during the open week, and, it bared itself out to be true that the team that makes the fewest amount of mistakes is going to win the game. And we lost some games earlier in the season the same way we won this game on Saturday, and I can't be prouder of my football team. Those guys they're resilient. They did a good job of fighting. They never got down, even though we were behind the entire game. And it just says a lot about that young football team, about how badly they really want to win, how bad they want to be successful. You don't get a chance to enjoy it for very long. You turn around and you got to play a tough Jackson State football team. The team that I see on film is going to be a very formidable opponent, and we're going to have to get our stuff together so that we can have success. And that's what we're going to do. We'll give them the day off, and then we get back to practice tomorrow.
All right, the floor is now open for Alabama A&M head football coach James Spady. Please remember to use the command *6 to unmute your phone. Coach, talk about the play of your quarterback, Jamison Lee, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day, and the game winner with around 2 minutes left. Was that probably the best you've seen him play this season?
Yeah, and then, he's had the last few games. He was having a good game at Southern, a career day, and then he got injured. This week, the difference was he got injured early in the game and fought through what had to be a pretty excruciating lower leg injury. And he did a good job, a fantastic job of quarterbacking this football team to a win. I think his performance was courageous. I'm disappointed that he didn't get any kind of recognition outside of our team, but that's okay. That's not why he plays the game. He plays the game for the love of the game, and I'm just so proud of the effort. Should have came out of the game in the second quarter, but he just kept playing. He knew this was his last classic, and he wanted to perform for his family and for our Bulldog faithful.
Coach Spady, Bud McLaughlin here.
Hey, Bud.
How the hard part, I guess, you'll have this week is bringing the guys back down to earth after such a big and just a thrilling win Saturday.
Yeah, that's exactly what the task is. That's the challenge. And I told our football team, you got 2 opportunities here. One, you could bask in the glow of your win for the next week, and then you're going to lose the next game. Or you could put this game away and put it in its place and get prepared for your next opponent and give yourself a chance to win next week. And so that's what we talked about. The task is going to be to rein them back in and make them understand that it was just one game. Don't let it turn into a loss next week. And so that's what we're going to talk about the rest of the week.
And we're still taking questions for James Spady, head coach at Alabama A&M.
Coach Spade, in the second half, what did you tell your defense? They kind of shut down the running game of Malcolm Cyrus just for a little bit, but he got hurt. What did you tell your defense the second half?
Well, there's no shutting Malcolm Cyrus down. Malcolm Cyrus is as good as they come. He's a really good football player, and it wasn't a matter of shutting him down. It was more of a matter of, you guys understand where you're supposed to be. You understand your responsibility, and now let's execute that. Let's be a little bit more disciplined about gap control. We need to tackle better, and I mean that's an ongoing thing. That's something that obviously we're going to have to continue to address as the season goes on. But those are the things that we specifically talked about at halftime. You guys are playing great. You're playing with great emotion, but you need to channel that emotion into great fundamentals. Make sure we're wrapping up, making sure we're running our feet and finishing tackles and things like that.
Hey, Coach Brosden from the Clarion Ledger. You said Jackson State is the former Alcorn on film. What do you see about them that kind of worries you? Because just considering the season that they've had so far, what in particular do you think will be something that you'll have to, that you see that you'll have to go against?
As a football coach, you look at. I don't care about their record. There's nothing about their record interests me. Nothing about the stats for the season interests me. When you look at film and you evaluate an opponent, you evaluate what they do well, what they don't do well. What I see from Jackson State is, and I've watched their defense. I haven't watched their offense at all, so I have no perspective yet. But when I'm watching their defense, I see a fantastic defensive package. They're able to get in and out of multiple fronts. They can cover down on you no matter what formation you give them. I see a really fairly good tackling defense. They've got some good size up front. They do some things in terms of mobility that gives you fits on offense. And I'm telling you now, the coaching staff that they have, they put those guys in position for success, and all they've got to do now is execute. What I see on film is a good football team that plays good football, and that's what we're trying to prepare for. I don't care about their record. I don't care about what they've done before now.
Coach, Tevin McKenzie had the big catch for the eventual game winner, but he did a pretty good job for you Saturday as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Tevin McKenzie's becoming one of those guys that we have to count on, and he has stepped up to the plate and has been what we expected him to be. He's playing on a lot of reps on special teams, which you kind of have to do at this level. We don't have the depth where guys can specialize in one position or another. He's made a lot of tackles, and that's the stuff that people don't see, in the box scores. He's made a ton of tackles on punt coverage and kickoff coverage, and then he was able to return some kicks for us the other day. The guy has been an invaluable asset to this football team, and I hope he continues to play well because we can use him in the stretch run.
So for a while, you've been talking about someone else stepping up besides Monte Smith, who also had 4 catches for 67 yards. And you talked about McKenzie and Darius Williams, who had 7 catches for 109 yards. How fulfilling was it to see someone else in your receiving corps step up?
Isn't that pretty awesome? We had 7 receivers catch passes in the game Saturday, and that to me is when – if a defense can't settle in and say, well, I better stop number 4 or I better stop number 9, if you can't settle in and develop a plan to stop that one guy, then that's an advantage for us. And that's why it's so special that guys like Tevin McKenzie, guys like Monte Smith, guys like Odarius Williams, and then our tight end core, Jonathan Dorsey and Kalis Robertson, and Alvante Kirksey, if those guys can step up and be a factor for us in the receiving game, then it just makes us that much better that the defense has to address all those different issues.
Do we have any more questions for James Spady? Coach, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to talking with you next week.
All right, thank you.
That's James Spady, head coach at Alabama A&M, and his team will face Jackson State in Jackson, Mississippi. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m. Next up on the call, we go to Alabama State University, and head coach Reggie Barlow and his team fell to Alabama A&M this past Saturday. They will travel to Baton Rouge and face Southern University this Saturday, and the kickoff is at 6 p.m. Good morning, Coach Barlow.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. If you could recap the Magic City Classic as well and preview Southern on the road.
Yes, sir. Magic City Classic, it was, like Coach said, man, it's a great atmosphere. Magic City Classic is always a fun game, and I commend A&M and on playing the game the right way, and I was able to get the victory over us. I thought our guys we did some things well. Our guys fought. We didn't give up, and we knew it would be a tough game. Just have to keep playing. Offensively, we were able to move the ball and score some points and do some good things. We still turned it over a couple of times, which you don't like to happen, and point-blank range, which gave them positive field position to be able to score some points on us. Defensively, we have to get better defensively. We can't stop. We're allowing teams to drive the ball on us 95 yards with the game on the line. It's just we got to do a better job. I got to do a better job of getting a solid plan where these guys can go out and play and not have to do as much thinking. There are some calls that we're going to send in. I think we drove the ball in and we actually won the game. Well, thought we had won it, but it was called back, and so there's some calls that we're going to have to send in to that head guy over officiating. But we make no excuses. We got to get better, and we're looking forward to it. Southern University. I really, really love Southern University. Those guys play the game the right way. Coach Odums does a great job of preparing those guys. They've always played with great pride and play hard. They play the game the right way. Just watching them on film, I mean, they got nice size. They got explosive playmakers, a young quarterback that's playing well. Defensively, they're running to the ball. I mean, it's Southern football, and although I got a lot of respect for every team in this conference, man, Southern is just one that's just always been a favorite of mine to watch them play, regardless if it's against us or whoever. So got our work cut out for us on the road. It'll be a nice atmosphere. I'm sure they'll have a lot of fans there. They've always had a bunch of fans there. So looking forward to it. Got to get back on track.
Our questions now for Alabama State head coach Reggie Barlow.
Hey, Coach, this is Isaiah at the Pine Bluff commercial. Looks like maybe 3 or 4 games into the season, you guys seem to be the team to beat. If I'm not mistaken, you guys have beaten Alcorn State pretty handily, but now you guys have found yourself on a slide. You pointed to some defensive struggles. Is that what's been holding you guys back in your recent struggles?
Yeah, I see. Well, Alcorn, they beat us pretty handily, but we were on a stretch run there where we had won some games and, was doing some things right. But in those games, our defense still was giving up too many points. And, we just got to call it what it is. I mean, you score 30 points, you got to stop folks. The numbers are in your favor. And that's just what it is. And we're going to go to the drawing board and, get our guys back, refocus, and simplify some stuff for them. We have some solid athletes on our defense, but right now we're not playing with gap integrity. We're violating our eyes in the secondary, and I mean we got to get better at that.
Still taking questions for Reggie Barlow, head coach at Alabama State. Coach, you had a 20-7 lead at one point. Can you talk about, if you will, when things started to, I guess, take a turn for you guys and the momentum switched to Alabama A&M?
Yeah, I think that Jameson, he's a good player, man. How about the grit that young man played with? And I kind of, like Spady said, I mean, I think sometimes the player of the game award should be based on the magnitude of the games as well. I mean, that guy played one leg there and made some plays for us and not knocking in the other players that won the award. But he did a great job. And I just think what it was when we were up 27, there were 2 or 3 plays in the same drive where, we couldn't get pressure to him. He kind of scrambled around, made a throw to a guy, kept the chains moving, and we got him in another 3rd and long, and he scrambled around and found another guy, which sustained that drive, which ultimately gave them, opportunity to get 14 points, got a little momentum, And even when we went in at halftime, we come out, we kick off to them, we're still up, and they take the ball and drive at 80 on us, and that it just can't happen, but it did. and they had a lot to do with it. You know, those guys played with a lot of passion, and they played the game the right way, and that was how we lost it.
Coach, did you think you'd have a pretty good shot of winning if you'd have been told at the beginning you would have 504 yards of total offense and 237 of those on the ground?
Yeah, one thing about our conference is normally if you rush the ball for more than the other team and don't turn it over, and I mean it's a high percentage that you'll win the game. But you know, like I said, we had a couple of turnovers where we were going in to score and kind of turn the ball over, and then actually twice with interceptions, and then we fumbled one in point-blank range. So, you know, those things are you can't do that against good teams. You can't do that against these teams. I mean, it's so much parity in our league, and I mean, you could look one game, you see this team, you know, may lose, and then the next one, you know, they get things corrected and they come back and win. So, yeah, those numbers are good numbers, but again, when you're giving up the big play, when you're allowing teams to go 95 yards on you and 80 yards on you, it's just not good football.
We have about 2 minutes in the segment for Reggie Barlow, head coach at Alabama State. Coach, one last question before you go. Your primary focus as you head into Southern in terms of corrections and playing on the road this weekend?
Well, just, you know, offensively, I mean, just really when we talk about protecting the ball, defensively, you know, it's wider than the widest, deeper than the deepest. And if it shows up in front of you, you got to come to balance and make the tackle. I mean, it's, you know, we got to remove all the thinking, and we just got to get back to that. And it's going to be a hell of a challenge because Southern, I mean, they're a good team. They're scoring a bunch of points, and they got some explosive playmakers there, and they have an outstanding scheme offensively and defensively. So, you know, we got work cut out for us. But, hey, we signed up for it. That's what this is, SWAC football play. And we got 4 days to get ready for it, so we'll see what we can do.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to talking with you next week.
Right on.
That's Reggie Barlow, head coach at Alabama State. Again, his team is on the road this weekend in Baton Rouge. They'll play at Southern. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Next up on the call, we go to Jackson State University, and his team fell to Southern this past weekend. And this Saturday, they will host Alabama A&M at 6 p.m. We say good morning to head coach Harold Jackson. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How you doing?
Just fine, Coach. Thank you for joining us. Give us a recap of what happened at Southern and preview Alabama A&M.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, we had Southern here at home this past weekend, and I'll tell you what, when Southern travel, they bring a lot of fans, you know, and so probably this year is probably the most that stadium, Memorial Coliseum, has had this year, because when Southern, they come, they going to pack your stadium, and so they was all over the stadium. And I tell you what, Southern got a great football team. They probably, like I said last week, is probably the team that's going to have, you know, the offensive line and the defensive line is probably two parts of their football team is really outstanding because they came out and they ran the ball, and their defense got after us pretty good. We thought we had a good chance of winning that ball game. We had a great practice last week, and the players' legs were fresh, and I don't know whether what happened is, you know, we had new uniforms for that game, so those guys were so excited. I don't know whether they was too hyped for that ball game because they went out and before the game started they was warming up, and they just, you know, they might have burned themselves out there in pre-warm up and stuff, So, but we just got to get it together, Like we thought we had that ball game in pretty good tact there for a while. Like we're a team that we can't let teams jump out on us and get a big margin, and then we try to go and catch them. We're not that great a football team. We are trying to get there, and eventually we will get there. Like I said, the score ended up being 42-28. We didn't start getting the ball game going until almost like the second quarter, and by that time the score was up 21 points on us, So here we are trying to catch up. But we had some guys that played pretty good for us. Our quarterback, I'll tell you the one good thing about it, he ended up with about 32 for 48. He completed 32 or 48 for about 424 yards. He had about 3 receivers over 100 yards. Daniel Williams had 100. He had about 9 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. Jared Moore had about 7 catches for 118 yards, and Tobias Singer, I think he ended up with about 6 for 105. The thing that we got to work on is our special team. Our special team we've been working on just as much as we work on our offense and defensive team. We just got to make sure we don't let happen what happened this past weekend. We let on a punt return back for a touchdown, then we had a kickoff for a touchdown. So we got to really work on that, and that's one of the things that we are looking forward to this week as far as work on is our special team. Maybe what we need to do is bring some guys from the starters and put the starters on special teams the way a lot of teams are doing, using a lot of starters on special team, because that's the problem that we had this past week, and we got to make it better. And we still got to cut down on penalties. We had 11 penalties for about 84 yards. We didn't have no turnovers and fumbles. That was one blessing. We didn't have no turnovers, didn't have interception, didn't have no fumbles. So we just got to correct those areas.
All right, the floor is now open for Harold Jackson, head coach at Jackson State. Coach Lamontez Ivy, 424 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was 32 of 48 against Southern this past Saturday. Talk about his play and, I guess, his season overall comparatively to this game.
Well, I'll tell you what, Montez, he's going to be a great quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback of Jackson State, and the thing that we're trying to do is try to give him all the experience that we can give him because, like I said, he's a freshman, and this is the first year playing, like I say, he played all season so far. He's been healthy. Well, he hadn't really been healthy, been some bumps and bruises here and there, but he's maintained the starting position right now. There are a couple of times that we thought about pulling him and put England in, so we're still going to try to get some spots in that we can probably give him a little break there, give him, so he can come to the sideline and kind of see what's going on sometime, because he's a guy he's learning as he go. And like I said, he's the quarterback for Jackson State for the next 2 or 3 years, and so we're trying to get him all the exposure that we can for his experience-wise. And like I said, if we can just keep our offensive line intact to protect him, he will be a dynamite quarterback. And so that's one of the things that we are trying to do is keep our offensive line intact. And we are struggling at trying to maintain those guys because we had one of our guys is completely gone for the year. And so that really hurt us at that position. But we're trying to mix pieces together there. So what we're doing now is probably putting our running backs and for, kind of max protect and kind of help the protection.
Hey, Coach, it's Ross from the Clarion Ledger.
Hey, Ross, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Coach. You said there's a guy who you lost on your O-line for the rest of the season. Who was that person?
Well, that was Daniel Williams. He's the one that has the heart problem. So we want to make sure we do the right thing there. And so, the right thing there is probably not to bring him back on. Listen to doctors and them give me some paperwork and let me know what's going on there. But right now, if anything happened to that young man, I wouldn't be able to live with that on my conscience.
Right. I guess in terms of the O-line, is it depth or is it experience or a mix of just switching their stances this season that's kind of been a struggle for them?
Well, right now it's depth-wise, and that's one of the things that I've been talking about ever since I've been here is the depth at my offensive line and the depth at my defensive line. Like I said, those big guys in ball games a day, you wear them down. That's no matter where you go, where you play, what level of football, you got to have the depth at that position, those two positions, in order to maintain the same competitive, go out and compete in a ball game. So that's where we having a lot of problem with the depth at our offensive line.
Still taking questions for Harold Jackson at Alabama State. The floor is still open.
Coach, for when you said you're adding more running backs or maybe tight ends in the backfield to help protect the quarterback, would you say that's kind of what's hurting the running game with the imbalance of the passing and the rushing yards you guys are getting? Would you kind of attribute it to using more the running backs as protectors instead of being able to run the ball?
Well, you know what? That's, like I said, most teams have to, go to that. Like I said, I've been around that for many years where you have to use your running back sometime for as maintain your protection up there because, like I said, you want to make sure you keep that quarterback standing straight up. You don't want that quarterback to get hit or get beat up. And, and Ivory, he's a tough quarterback, and he had been taking some beating, so we just got to make sure we do the right thing with him because, like I said, he's the quarterback of the future here, and so we're trying to give him all the experience that we can this year, and so we want to make sure we keep him healthy.
Mm-hmm. So you guys been working with Monte and Ivy to get out of the pocket and run a little more, especially with the lack of depth protection then in the O-line? Has that been something brought up?
Well, we had talked about that, but like I said, we want to try to keep him behind the line if we can as much as possible because, like I said, we got to keep this young man healthy, and so we don't want to put something out there that we can't protect, and so we want to make sure, like I said, we got plays in there. He probably will pull the ball down sometime and scramble, but we want to make sure we try to keep him behind the line and just throw the ball down the field. He got some pretty good receivers and some pretty good running backs, and, the receivers where we have great depth. So we just got to really get the ball to those guys. Like I said, we had 3 guys over 100 yards this past weekend, so we just got to make sure we, get the ball to those guys down the field.
Mm-hmm. How much film study have you guys been able to get of Alabama A&M so far? I know you just got back from the weekend, but have you been able to look at Alabama A&M?
Well, we started watching our opponents, like last week. Once we get the opponent that we are playing, this week we start breaking the film down for them the next week because our quality control guys, they're almost like a week ahead on everything. So we know a little bit about the team that we're going to play before we play the game that we, like I said, this week.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 2 minutes with Harold Jackson from Jackson State. Coach Jamison Lee had a pretty solid game against Alabama State this past weekend. If you've seen film on him, what have you seen on this quarterback for from A&M so far?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's a good quarterback. He's a quarterback that really stands in the pocket back there and throws the ball pretty good, so he get the ball out of his hand quick. And that's the thing that, you hate to play a quarterback is you hate those running quarterbacks for one, but this guy here stands back there and he'll pump the ball out there real fast on you. So we just got to make sure we put a lot of pressure on him. That's one of the things that we got to work on is putting a little bit more pressure on these quarterbacks so we get the ball out of their hand and get it down the field. So we're working on those things and try to get it done.
Coach, thank you very much for your time this morning. We look forward to talking with you next week.
Thank you very much.
That's Harold Jackson, head coach at Jackson State University. His team will host Alabama A&M at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Next up, we go to Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Head coach Monte Coleman. His team defeated Texas Southern this Saturday on the road. This Saturday, they will host Mississippi Valley State, and the kickoff is set for 2:30. Good morning, Coach Coleman.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. If you could recap your victory over Texas Southern and preview your road trip with Mississippi Valley.
Well, first of all, let me say it was a heavyweight fight between the two teams, us and Texas Southern. We feel very fortunate to be able to come out with that victory. If you look at the stats, which of course we as coaches, head coaches, we go through all the stats. Texas Southern played extremely well for us to walk out of there with that victory. Like I said, we're very blessed and very happy to have it. They had a big day rushing the football. Mr. Porter did. He rushed for 187 yards against us. But we had a young man by the name of Brian Hanley who rushed for 193 yards. So that helped us out. Their quarterback played well. He threw for 333 yards, and Ben had a good game with 3 touchdowns with 288 yards. So it was a hard-fought football game against Texas Southern, and like I said, we feel very fortunate. We had to win the game with a blocked field goal, and we feel very fortunate to be able to come out on a much-needed victory for us out of the stadium. We do play Valley this week. We hadn't really started real hard. I've watched film on them. It's going to be a tough football game. We're glad to be at home. We've been on the road for the last 3 weeks, and we're glad to be at home once again to play in front of our home crowd. So all of our kids should be excited after the win against Texas Southern and to be able to be at home to play against Mississippi Valley this week. So we're excited to be at home.
Questions now for Monte Coleman. The floor is now open. Head coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Hey, Coach Coleman, I see Willie Duncan, player of the week after 11 tackles, 10 of them solo. A lot of offense was to be had in that ball game, so, quite naturally some defensive guys are going to be involved a whole lot, and so was Willie Duncan. Just talk to me about how key he was in that ball game.
Willie is a true sophomore, played some for us last year, and he's really starting to come into his own as a run plugger. We take him out a lot on passing situations, so for him to be able to achieve the number of tackles on just rundowns, that shows that, the young man is starting to get to the football. So he's maturing, and that's what we need him to do week in and week out. Well, we're looking for him to be one of the leaders on the defense as a linebacker, and, I'm proud of him that he was able to be named Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah. So, you say you take him out a lot on pass situations, so he's never on the field when they pass. Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yeah. I mean, we've only started doing that the last couple of weeks. We've got different packages, and we will pull him out as the Mike linebacker. So there's times doing passing downs where it may be second and long, third and long, that he may not be on the field.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. In the third quarter, quite hasn't been your strong suit this season. Seems like a lot of times teams either pull away or they try to start a little run or try to take over the game from you guys in that third quarter right there, and that seemed to be the case where you guys went from a 9-point lead to being down by 5. What is it about the third quarter?
And I don't know. I see that's something that we talked about in our staff meeting just a minute ago. And I told the coaches that we've got to go and we've got to analyze ourselves to see what's happening, because the offense only had, I think, 8 plays in the third quarter, wasn't very productive in the third quarter. The defense gave up 14 points in the third quarter after, losing the lead that we had. So we've got to look at ourselves and see why. It played in our favor. I deferred from the opening kickoff, hoping that we'll come back out with the offense. The offense came back out the third quarter, but for whatever reason we sputtered. And that's one thing that we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we these next 4 games or this next game, that we can't have the letdowns that we're having after the break.
Right. And Brian Hanley, the guy seemed to really redeem himself. I think there was the game where I think it was Southern where he had missed the meeting, and I think he had missed the first half of the game. But then he just really redeemed himself with his rushing performance on Saturday. Can you talk about how that guy seemed to really bounce back?
You know, my whole philosophy, I see, is you play like you practice. And Hanley has had weeks of good preparation in practice, and I think this is just a byproduct of him working hard in practice to be able to come out and having a game of his lifetime, college game of his lifetime, with 193 yards with 2 touchdowns. But the young man is a very, very dedicated, hard worker in practice, and I truly believe that, you know, if a lot of our kids would take note of him, we could be a better football team, because I think it all starts in practice, and it was very obvious. You know, I want to give credit due also. I thought the offensive line played well to open holes for Hanley, and you know, you can't have 193 yards rushing without the offensive line doing what they need to do, and I think this is one of their best games so far this season.
Thank you.
Still taking questions for Arkansas Pine Bluff head coach Monte Coleman. Coach, 2 individuals. First, you talked a little bit about Brian Hanley, his 19 carries and 193 yards. Obviously, that turned out to be huge for you guys to establish a running game. And the other one, Willie Young, 142 yards. He actually got in the end zone twice.
Right.
Talk about the play of those 2 guys.
You know, we talked about Hanley just a minute ago, him coming to his own. We needed that running attack because Texas Southern had the exact same thing. Mr. Porter for them. He had 18 carries for 187 yards. He had 1 touchdown. So we needed to be able to combat with him, and that's what Hanley gave to us. Now, Willie Young only had 3 catches, but 2 of those were huge. I think one was 60 yards, another was 69 yards, both were touchdowns. And we took a chance and threw the big ball like we had in years past. And Willie was able to go catch the football and run those in for touchdowns. So, you know, the timing of his was huge for us. And Hanley being consistent pretty much all game gave us that advantage that we needed because we do pride ourselves on trying to run the football. The thing that we can't do, though, from a defense standpoint, when we have a big offensive day like Hanley had, we got to be able to shut down the opponent's running attack.
Both teams scored 10 points apiece in the first quarter. And then you guys branched out a little further and scored 16 in the second. How big was that quarter right before the half for you guys?
It was huge. That's the part of it that made it disappointing for us to come out the third quarter and not do anything, because we had a great second quarter, and we were hoping to piggyback off of that. We had the ball first, the start of the third quarter, so we were hoping that we can come out and maybe put another touchdown on the board. And unfortunately for that third quarter, we didn't play well at all as a team. We gave up 14 points from a defensive side, and of course we didn't put anything up from the offensive side. So, you know, like I said early on in my opening statement, we feel very fortunate and blessed to be able to walk out of there with the victory. And it took a field goal block to win that game. So it just shows you how intense that particular ball game was.
Coach, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate you joining us. We look forward to talking with you next week.
Thank you very much.
That's Monte Coleman, head coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff. His team will host Mississippi Valley, and the kickoff is at 2:30 this Saturday. Next up on the call, we go to Grambling State University in Broadrick Fobbs. His team was idle last week, and they will play Texas Southern this weekend for a 5:30 kickoff, hosting Texas Southern, that is. Good morning, Coach Fobbs.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us, Coach. Give us a recap of what you guys went over during your bye week, and preview your match with Texas Southern this coming Saturday.
Well, I think having an opportunity to play against Open is always a good adventure for a ball club. Having a chance to get your team healthy and get back to basics, so to speak, in the kicking game, and also offensively and defensively is always good. But also it allows you to take a look at some younger kids as well, which helps us to create some depth for us, so that we can continue to get better. We are thankful for the break, but we also know that Texas Southern is on the other end of it this week, and a very good football team, a very exciting football team. Dropped one last week, but they're a very, very good football team and very aggressive and attacking style defense. So it's going to definitely be a challenge, and we want to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do and focus on ourselves and develop the way we're capable of developing in order to be ready to perform on Saturday.
Okay, the floor is now open for Grambling State head football coach Broadrick Fobbs.
Phil Williams from KTSU Sports. Can you talk about the resurgence of Grambling State this season? 5-0 first place in conference and top defense.
I can't hear you. Cutting in and out on me.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Can you talk about the resurgence of Grambling State this season? 5-0 conference, first place, and top 5 in offense and defense.
Well, for us, basically, we don't focus on resurgence or lack thereof or whatever you want to call it. Our focus is always for us has been about, the next play, the next day, the next moment. That's all we focus on. We live by a motto: win, what's important now, meaning what's important at this very moment. So we never really focus on that. We do know that there's a lot of history here at Grambling State University and a lot of success that has actually happened here. But for us, we take the mindset of just focusing on what we have to take care of right now. Because, we firmly believe, if you start looking back or looking ahead, past the hurdle that's in front of you, then you'll stumble over the hurdle that's right in front of you. So our focus is just this hurdle, and this hurdle is Texas Southern right now.
Good morning, Coach. This is Mike Prince with the Open Mic Broadcast Network. How are you this morning, sir?
How you doing, Mr. Prince?
Good. Look, you guys are in pretty much the driver's seat of the Western Division with this game of great importance coming up against Texas Southern. What are you addressing with your guys from the neck up? We know that physically they can get things done, so how are you getting them prepared mentally for the course of the remaining of the season?
Well, everything for us starts from within. We talk about playing this game from within, and playing from within means playing with heart, playing with passion, and then playing with our minds, because you have to be able to execute the plan that's put in. So for us, it's the same mindset, is making sure we continue to focus the way that we've been focusing here lately. And our kids understand that. One thing that our kids know, and we let it be known, that we haven't accomplished anything. Yes, we've been fortunate to win a couple of ball games, but we have not accomplished anything. So the focus should not change, and it has not changed.
Now, with that being said, Coach, you also have to be thankful. I know you don't like to discuss injuries on your team, but this bye week couldn't have came at a more ideal time for you guys to get some of those wounds healed, correct?
Oh, definitely. Even though, there's not very many injuries, there's a lot of bruises. And anytime you get an opportunity to heal a little bit, it allows you to play a little faster, to play a little harder, and to play a little bit better, and then also it allows you an opportunity to to continue to get some other kids some reps so that you can create some depth for yourself. So we're just fortunate to have that opportunity. It could not have come at a better time, and we're just focused right now on today and doing what we need to do on the practice field.
Thanks, Coach.
They're taking questions for Broadrick Fobbs, head coach at Grambling State. Coach Fobbs, Coach Coleman talked briefly about Devion Porter, the running back at Texas Southern, who ran for 187 yards on UAPB this past weekend. So talk about him, and also if you could talk about Homer Causey. I think they're just getting their starting quarterback, or their original quarterback, who threw for 333 yards this past weekend, who's really another running back as well.
Right, and and that's definitely a good point. Watching film on those guys, they tough guys, and you got to be ready to play. It's no secret in this conference, week in, week out, you're going to have to face a really good football player, and Texas Southern has several of them. So, we're excited to have the opportunity to compete. I know Coach Asbury is glad and happy to get his player back on the field, and it's just an opportunity, and we're just wanting to see where we are.
We've got about 3 minutes in the segment with Broadrick Fobbs, head coach at Grambling State.
Coach Fobbs, what do you do to tell your players to stay focused, don't look too far ahead for the SWAC championship? What do you do to tell your players to stay focused?
Well, you can't even. That's not even something that's talked about. Because right now everything is about Texas Southern. That saying, that word that you just mentioned, we don't let it part our mouths, because right now to do that actually would be getting away from everything that we preach here. So we don't even talk about that, because that's something that we can't even control right now. We have to focus on this opponent, very exceptional opponent, very physical style defense, and also offense. So the focus is not about that. The focus for us is what's right in front of us.
Do you have any more questions for Broadrick Fobbs? Coach Fobbs, thank you very much for your time. We will talk with you next week.
Thank you.
That's Broadrick Fobbs, head coach at Grambling State. Again, this team will face Texas Southern this coming weekend, and the time for the kickoff is set for 5:30. We're just about 2 minutes ahead of time here before we get to Jay Hopson. So we will run down the SWAC standings just to get everyone caught up. And as it stands right now in the Eastern Division, Alcorn State leads the East. They are 7-2 overall and 5-1 in conference play. Following in second place right now, Alabama State is 4-4 overall. They are 3-3 in the conference, followed by Alabama A&M, 3-5 overall, 2-3 in the league. Jackson State is fourth at 3-5 and 1-4 in conference play, followed by Mississippi Valley State, 2-6, 1-5, rounding out the Eastern Division. On the Western Division side of things, it is Grambling State. They're 5-3 overall and a perfect 5-0 in conference play. Followed by Southern University is also 5-3. They're 4-1 in the league. Then it's Texas Southern in third. They're 5-3, 3-3 in league play. Followed by Prairie View is 3-5, 3-4 in the conference. Arkansas Pine Bluff is 2-5 and 1-4, rounding out the West. Those are your current standings right now for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Back to the call we go, and we'll talk things over with Jay Hopson, the head coach at Alcorn State. 15 defeated Prairie View A&M, and they have a bye week this coming Saturday. Good morning, Coach Hopson.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. If you could recap your victory over Prairie View and give us a preview of your plans for your bye week.
Well, it was again another high-scoring affair with Prairie View. It seems like we have one every year with Prairie View, and it started out I think with a lot of O on both sides early. I think the first quarter was like 28-14. I thought we did some good things. I thought offensively we played really well. I thought defensively, we had a few misassignment alignment deals, and I thought the Asbury kid from Prairie View did an outstanding job. He's really an exceptional player and made a lot of plays, and it was a back and forth first half, and I thought we kept plugging and began to kind of separate there toward the end of the first half, early second half. But it was a hard fought battle, and against a really good football team. This week we'll go back and try to work on fundamentals and get some preparation. Hopefully we can get one or two guys that got some nicks and bruises healed up, and just try to get better.
All right, the floor is now open for Alcorn State head coach Jay Hopson. Let's talk about the dominating performance from John Gibbs. 4 touchdowns, actually accounted for 5. He's also the current week's SWAC Player of the Week offensively, 362 yards on Saturday.
Yeah, John played a tremendous game. I thought he was really good in his reads and progressions. And John, seems to always play good against Prairie View. Knock on wood. But I know as a freshman, he had his best game as a freshman out there, and last year had a really tremendous game. So he's played really well, all 3 years that he's been here, and just did a tremendous job for us Saturday.
Coach, from a national standpoint, do you think the stage, the people are underestimating the 2 quarterbacks that were on the field at the same time Saturday when you talk about Lovelock at Prairie View? And
no question.
Your quarterback
I
and
think
John Gibbs?
because, of course, we love John, but I thought the Lovelock kid is a tremendous player too. He's been he's been one of those guys. Like last year we talked about Dre Joseph and some of those guys. He's one of those guys you just dread seeing on your schedule, because you just know, man, he's gonna make plays, and he's just he's a senior. He's smart, does a great job through his reads and progressions, and just a tremendous football player.
In your experience in the league, when you look at a guy like Lovelock, do you potentially see a future for him on the next level with a guy that size and the way he throws around the ball?
No question. No question about it. He's got size, got arm strength, good decision maker, and you hope those opportunities present themselves for not just him, but quite a few of our quarterbacks in our league, because we have a very talented league and some really good football players.
And we're still talking things over with Jay Hopson, head coach at Alcorn State. The floor is still open. .699 yards, coach, of total offense. At what point did you look up and see the score and realize, man, we're scoring a lot of points here? At what point did it really
probably early in that game? I think probably in the first quarter, and it just seems like but I thought toward the end of the second quarter, you really said, wow. But again, I thought they did a good job too. I thought like I said, I thought Lovelock did a tremendous job. I thought the Asbury kid was tremendous too. I thought he made a lot of big plays, and very fast young man who just made a lot of good plays in space.
How you doing, Coach? This is Mike Prince with the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Hey, Mike.
All right, congratulations on your win. And although you had 699 yards of total offense, are there any concerns from the defensive side about the total yardage that you guys gave up 305 yards passing, 240 yards rushing. Is there anything you're doing to try to address that?
Well, you never like that. You know, it's you're never just completely thrilled when you come out of a game of that. But then again, there's the good thing is we got the W, and there's a lot of things that this week you show the guys on film. You know, and certainly we've got to tackle better than we did Saturday. We've been a pretty good tackling team all year, and you know, we've certainly had some misalignment, assignment errors that you know, you can't do, and it all comes down to execution. But hopefully, you know, it's and again, give them credit too, because like I said, their quarterback, you know, he's been a tremendous player in this league for a long time, and you know, the Asbury kid is just a dynamic player, and so they did some good things and made some plays too. So, but at the end of the day, you know, we're going to do what we do, and you know, just try to get better.
And one more question for you, Coach. I don't know if you realize it, but you guys will be part of a trivia question in history, that being the last official game played at Blackshear Stadium. Did you guys get a chance to reflect about that and your significance in that in the near future as they move forward with the new stadium at Prairie View?
Not really. You know, we kind of just try to take one game at a time. You know, I mean, a lot of things, you know, as far as players and coaches, we just try to get ready. You know, it's kind of like the old saying, you know, every field you play on is 100 by 53. You know, so just go play, and that's kind of the way we have to approach it. And you know, each week, and you know, we really didn't talk about it a lot.
And we have about 2 minutes left in the segment with Jay Hopson. Your questions. And so it's a bye week next, Coach, before you go through your home stretch of your last three with at A&M and Pine Bluff and Jackson State at home. What is your primary focus going forward?
Just us, you know, just make sure we get better at the things we got to get better at and correct some of our mistakes. And like I said, hopefully we do have a few bangs and bruises, so hopefully this week, you know, we'll get a chance to get some guys back healthy and at full go for the 8th.
How anxious do you think the guys will be considering you have a bye week here? You don't play again in November 8th, but you look at the numbers, I mean, it's right there in front of you, a win, and you guys clinch.
Well, it's something that, you know, it's all about Alabama A&M. You know, all that stuff takes care of itself, and you know, that is, as coaches and as players, that's how you have to be. You know, I mean, it's kind of coach talk, and you know, you hear it, but certainly, you know, players and coaches certainly will be aware of that situation. But the reality is, you got to go out every week and you know, every Saturday. Take care of each opponent, you know, and it's if you don't do that, then nothing is reality. So, you know, we've got to take care of business. We got to, you know, we know we've got 3 excellent football teams coming up, and we've got to be ready to play each week, and that's just going to be our emphasis. You know, we got to get ready for Alabama A&M this week, and that's all that's on the schedule.
Do we have any more questions for Jay Hopson? Coach, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And that's Jay Hopson, head coach at Alcorn State. This team defeated Prairie View A&M this past week, and they are idle this coming Saturday. Next up on the call, we go to Edabina, Mississippi, and Mississippi Valley State. This team had a bye week as well, and they will play host to Arkansas at Pine Bluff. 2:30 kickoff this coming Saturday. We'll say good morning to Rick Comegy. Good morning, Coach. While we are awaiting the arrival of Rick Comegy, we will review the Southwestern Athletic Conference football players of the week. So if you just joined us recently, we'll start things off with the offensive player of the week, and it was John Gibbs Jr. from Alcorn State, quarterback from Alcorn, with 18 of 27, had a career-high 362 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, He also had 32 yards on the ground with 9 carries and scored 1 touchdown on the ground as well. His longest pass play was 83 yards. John Gibbs Jr. accounted for 5 touchdowns total in the 77-48 victory over Prairie View A&M. The Defensive Player of the Week went to Willie Duncan of Arkansas Pine Bluff. He had a total of 11 tackles. 10 of those were solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, and the 38-37 win over Texas Southern. Specialist of the Week, Willie Quinn from Southern University. He had 242 all-purpose yards and a punt return for a touchdown, which was 81 yards. He also had 5 catches for 134 yards and another kickoff return of 25 yards on the day. Specialist of the Week, Willie Quinn, Southern University wide receiver. The newcomer of the week, Aaron Baker from Alcorn State, freshman running back, had a total of 149 yards, which was a career high, 15 carries, and scored a career high 3 touchdowns. Also in the 77-48 win over Prairie View, he averaged 9.9 yards per carry, and his longest run was 31 yards on the day. Each of those touches were positive yards for Aaron Baker, the newcomer of the week. Those are your Southwestern Athletic Conference Football Players of the Week for Week 9. Back to the call now, and let's see if we have a hold of Rick Comegy. And we do not. So let's see if we can skip ahead of the call. Normally, Heishma Northern is next. Let's check to see if we have. Wait a minute, we had someone come in. Is that Coach Comegy?
Yes, I apologize. I am so sorry.
That's all right, Coach. If you could recap your bye week and give us a preview of Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Well, we had a good bye week. You know, we kind of rested a little bit better and got some wounds healed. But you know, we're using rest as a weapon, and so hopefully, you know, this rest time that we got will give us that boost that we're looking for to, you know, to get out there and play a good game in our next game. But we know we're seeing an opponent that's putting a lot of points on the board and play good football. You know, Alcorn, I know that they had a rough game there, but you can't just gauge that game because these guys can play, and you know, we have a lot of respect for them. And I know Coach down there, he's going to have his team ready, and you know, the guys going to be ready to play. So, you know we have our hands full, and we're not looking at, you know, a score or one team to another. You know, we got to gauge what we can do in this game and try to come out ahead if we can. So I'm excited, you know, to get back in it. You know, it's a road game for us, but you know, we're excited to get back in it and start plotting and planning, and you know, do the things that we're used to doing weekly. So, you know, it's a lot of excitement going on the staff, and you know, we're getting as we prepare.
Hey, Coach. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. The floor is now open for Rick Comegy, head coach at Mississippi Valley State. Go ahead, IC.
Hey, Coach. This is IC Morrell at the Pine Bluff commercial.
Yes, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced this season?
Well, I guess the biggest challenge is, you know, turning the ball over and giving the games away. You know, we haven't been as consistent as we could have been. You know, times when we, you know, supposed to punch it in, you know, we, you know, hadn't been able to do that just yet. And but we're getting there. You know, as I said before in many of these meetings, you know, we're taking baby steps instead of big steps. But you know, hopefully, you know, those baby steps will stop. You know, we're getting where we want to be, but we're just not quite there yet in that consistency level. We play one game that, you know, looks beautiful and like we just turned the corner, but then we'll come back and play the next game like we don't know what's going on, you know, and just got to find a way to get that consistency level up. And the only way I can think of is review to review and stay at it, roll the sleeves up and stay at it. And that's what we're trying to do, and keep the kids positive.
UAPB is racking up a lot of yards and a lot of points, you know, although they just gotten their first win in a while. But the last 3 games that I've seen UAPB and Valley play have been defensive battles. Do you think you guys can create another defensive battle to find some way to cool off this UAPB offense?
Well, we're gonna definitely give everything we got. I can't predict anything just yet, but I do know that we're going to give everything we got to, and not just cool off their offense, but we're going to do everything we got to try to put some points on the board as well. But they're a good football team, as I said, and they come out humming. As I said, Coach always does a fine job, and he's gonna definitely have them ready. It's a home game for them, and it's a game that we like to win on the road, but we know we got our hands full. We don't want to walk into a buzzsaw, so we really got to prepare and try to do the best we can to try to slow them down. Ball control is going to be really important in this game because they are so effective offensively.
Okay.
Floor is still open for Mississippi Valley State head coach Rick Comegy. Coach, quite a few quarterbacks that are solid in this league, and you'll see one this Saturday with Benjamin Anderson. He's a great one. Your thoughts on him?
Good one. Yeah, he's an outstanding quarterback, and he understands their system, understands how to make things happen, how to move the football. He can read defenses. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, no doubt about it. And we were talking about him a little bit this morning when I came in. He's an outstanding quarterback. And there are a lot of them out there, but he's definitely at the top.
Still about 3 minutes in the segment with Rick Comegy. Please remember to use the command *6 to unmute your phones for questions. So after the bye week, Coach, as you resume play here, what is the most important thing that you would like to see corrected once you get back to work here?
Well, if we correct anything, I'm hoping that we got our tackling, together. We're missing too many tackles in open field, and we worked on open field tackling, and and that we're sharp in what we want to do on offense. We weren't as sharp last game. We're putting the ball on the money where we had receivers open, and just get it on out there, get it to them. And so some of those things that when we get in that red zone, also push it on in, just take it on in and score. They're the things that we worked on this week, and hurry up offense to try to, move that ball quick before you can change personnel and things of that nature. So, we're hoping that those things will give us the boost that we're looking for.
Coach, obviously finishing strong here with you. Your last 3 games would be important to you, and 2 of those 3 are on the road. So I know that's an uphill battle, but overall, how do you feel about that? Now, what is the locker room like? How's your team viewing the rest of the schedule?
Well, these guys I always said this is what this team is kind of one of my favorite teams because these guys have not. When things are not going well, you find a lot of players that want to give up and go home and make excuses why they can't come to practice, but not these guys. These guys don't miss practice. They come out. They want to get better, and we play better on the road anyway. There's going to be a time where, I got to make some changes here at home on what we do here as far as Friday night games, but, we're able to get that captured audience on the road, and and I kind of like that, I'm excited about getting them out there and seeing what we can do this week. I know that we're facing a opponent that can really play, but I believe that if we can get our kids isolated, focused in, that, we can make a game of it.
And do we have any more questions for Mississippi Valley State head coach Rick Comegy? Coach, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to talking with you next week.
Well, thank you, and I apologize again about my lateness. I'm sorry.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. No problem, Coach. That's Rick Comegy, head coach at Mississippi Valley State. His team had a bye week this past Saturday. They will play host to Arkansas Pine Bluff this Saturday at 2:30. Next up on the call, we talk things over with Heishma Northern at Prairie View A&M. This team was defeated by Alcorn State this past Saturday, and they are idle here in Week 10. Good morning, Coach Northern.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. If you could give us a recap of your game with Alcorn and give us an idea of what you guys will work on in your bye week.
I was going to mess with you and say, do I have to talk about that game last week? But, it was one of those games where I think somewhat everything that could have went wrong did. Even before the game, we just had a lot of issues. I don't think we handled adversity well. But they did a lot of real good things from an offensive standpoint, with the eye candy moving guys around. May have thrown the ball sometimes when we may have been, sort of set for run type defenses. Did an excellent job, John, throwing the ball when he did off the play action and the guys wide open. But I look back at the film and try to see what could I have done as a coach. I definitely would have try to defend that speed sweep way differently than we did. I thought we had a good game plan with it, didn't execute it properly, so that leads me to believe that goes back to being my fault. I look back and see we gave up over 350 yards after we made contact with one of their ball carriers, whether it be a receiver, quarterback, or running back. And yes, those guys were running hard and tough, but at the end of the day, like I talked to our guys about, we owe it to our other the other guys on defense to get them to the ground. We had 2 turnovers. Both of them were big. They got the ball back on the 2-yard line on one. The other, I pretty firmly believe we were probably going in to score and don't score at that situation. We get an interception overturned. We have a defensive lineman jump off. So we go from having the ball at midfield to giving them the ball back in our own red zone. So like I say repeatedly, I talked to our guys a very little bit about yesterday. If Prairie View doesn't beat Prairie View, we can beat anybody. We had far too many penalties. Looking at, I think we kept 6 of their drives alive on third downs with pass interference calls, and I do not disagree with any of those calls. We had about 4 or 5 personal fouls, and I think all of them were committed by senior ball players. You can't have that against a good football team. So we have some issues that will be addressed on our off week. We're not going to change the way we discipline our players, regardless of our record or who we're playing against. I warned some of the guys, hey, don't be like that, the part of the body that gets removed when you go in for cancer treatment. Don't be that good meat that gets removed because you're hanging around the wrong people. So we're going to still coach the same way. We're going to take this off week, have 2 good days of practice this week, and come back and hit it hard next week. But, we got to just address some issues. I think some of the trust issues between maybe some of the guys on the team, when you defend the play a certain way and one time they run it and the defensive end does his job to perfection and the linebacker doesn't make the play, then the next time the defensive end starts doing the linebacker's job. And I think that sort of seeped into the way we were playing defense. Guys start trying to do other people's jobs, and when things are not going good for you, that's when you really have to do your job a little bit better instead of trying to do somebody else. But I think Coach Simmons, their offensive line played better than I expected, to be honest with you. I thought we would be able to use our speed a little bit more, but we were not able to. And just their scheme, I like what they do. I love what we do on offense, but I like what they do a lot as well. Anytime you can add a quarterback that's a dual threat that gives you an extra blocker, neither team gave up a sack. So that lets you know what kind of offense was being played. But, we got into an old-fashioned SWAC shootout, and unfortunately for us, we shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times, and we ran out of bullets. So, that's the story of that game.
All right, the floor is now open for Heishma Northern, head coach at Prairie View A&M.
Coach Northern, how you doing? This is Mike Prince with the open mic, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm fine.
All right. Look, it's not where we start, where you finish. It's how you looking at these last 2 games. You got a bye week, and then you close out because you only have 10 games of the season. I know you're going to go refine some things, but what are you doing to assure that on November 8th, when you go out against Arkansas Pine Bluff, that you get off to that quick assassin start, if you allow me to say it that way?
Well, we hadn't talked about how many games are left in the season. All I know is we have 1 right now. We have 1 game scheduled, And that's what we talk about, winning one in a row. No matter what our record is, we talk about winning one in a row. And that's what our plan is. Not to say we're just going to go up there and win, but that's what our goal is every week. Regardless of who we're playing, our goal is to win one in a row. We'll have two. I'm debating back and forth between very physical practices because, one of my coaches says if they don't bite when they puppies, they're not going to bite when they big dogs. And we're halfway through the season, or more than halfway through the season, so I don't know how much live tackling is going to help us right now. But like I told our guys, you owe it to your other guys on the team to get them down to the ground. So we'll have two very good practices this week. We'll do some conditioning and some film, and then we'll still prepare like we have a game this Saturday in terms of how we watch film, how do we prepare mentally, how do we prepare on the practice field with scout teams and all those types of things. And like I said, we may have to, it's some guys on our roster that may not be on our roster the next time we practice or the next time we play. It may be some coaches that are not here, including myself, but I understand what my role is and my task is as the head football coach to make these young men better men first and foremost, try to make them better football players, and that's what we're going to do. Like I say, regardless of our record, I think we're going to coach the same way and we're going to prepare the same way.
Are you making any tweaks as far as the defensive side is concerned? Now, you score 44 points when you expect that would be enough to win any game, but then in the flip side to give up 77, what are you looking to address as far as that is concerned?
Well, you know what? I'll sort of counteract that statement. Yeah, we have to play better on defense, but I've been on a defensive staff where I'll put it like this, where the score may have been 59-60, and 21 of those points may have been scored by special teams or the defense. So, unfortunately for us, our defense did not play up to par last week. So we will, make some changes. Our starting defensive tackle didn't play, no excuse. Our starting middle linebacker and his backup did not play for most of the game, no excuse. Starting safety out. If you looked at, and I think you were at our game, if you saw our senior day festivities, we had 20-something guys out there, and about 9 of them were in crutches or arm slings. So that's something we cannot deal with. We're going to get whoever is out there ready to play football for this next football game. So that's what I'm charged with, and that's what I'm going to do. Whoever's out there, we're going to get them ready to play. But I think the biggest thing that I have to do is get those guys to trust in each other to do their job to the best of their responsibilities and the best of their ability as well.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
We still have about 2 minutes with Heishma Northern, head coach at Prairie View A&M.
Hey, while I'm on the phone, if I have no other questions, I just got my ballot for the All-American team, and I think as coaches, I would like to sort of put out there that, we nominate our guys. If you have a guy, I know I'm going to nominate Jonte Hebert. I looked at the national rankings. We have, I want to say, 2 other guys in the nation up in the top 5 for punt returners. So if there are some other guys in the conference that need to be nominated, I know a big part of it, we think they can make it, is getting them out there. So I'll ask the other coaches to, if you got a guy, make sure you let other coaches in the conference know so we can get some guys on that All-American list. And I think that's a feather in all of our caps. But I'll just sort of put that out there. We need to help each other out because we have some instances where, we may have a young man and only one nomination come in from the conference. We need to make sure that we try to boost each other and boost our players up because like every coach said, man, it's some doggone good football players in this football conference. So, I want to see, my guys and other guys, because I am a SWAC product, be on that All-American list. So I just thought to put that out there.
Well said. Thank you very much, Coach. If we don't have any questions, that will do it for Heishma Northern. Do we have any more questions? Thanks a lot, Coach, and we appreciate that note.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's Heishma Northern, head coach at Prairie View A&M, and his team has a bye week here in Week 10. Next up on the call, we go to Southern University and head coach Dawson Odums. This team defeated Jackson State this past Saturday, and they will host Alabama State in Baton Rouge for a 6 p.m. kickoff this Saturday. Good morning, Coach Odums.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, Coach. Thanks for joining us. If you could recap Jackson State and preview Alabama State.
Well, first of all, it was a great atmosphere, I think, is what this conference represents. On the road, hostile environment, great crowd, great rivalry game. And, it's one we look forward to playing in. And I really thought at the beginning of the game, all week in practice, our guys were really locked in. It's good to have a lot of returning players that understand the stretch that we're in. They're familiar with what's going on. And it's really real simple. You got to go up there. You got to play well against a football team that was trying to find themselves. I really thought as the first half, up until about 29 minutes to go in the first half, I thought we was playing a complete football game. We jumped out early. Offense, defense had some stops. Offense turned it into points. Special teams played well. And you find yourself really playing the way you expect them to play. Right before halftime, they completed 2 big passes on us, bust some coverages, but, I still thought that we had a grasp of the football game. We ran the football extremely well. Lenore Tillery, he went over 100 yards again. Our offensive line is doing a great job. I don't think we gave up any sacks, and that's really been the trend. When we don't turn the ball over and protect it on offense and give our young quarterback a chance to throw it, we got playmakers at wide receiver and we got running backs that do a great job in running the football. Defensive, we can just keep them out of the end zone. We'll have a chance to win some football games. And our special teams continue to be a bright spot for us. We got a lot of talent in the skill positions and it helps us on special teams. And the great thing about it, we got the next few games, we got them at home. And now some other folks got to travel with 63 players and get to play against our 85. I think that's tough when you're on the road and you're on demand, but we like this opportunity being at home, having this last stretch of the year at home, and we look forward to seeing if we can continue to put some games together.
And the floor is now open for Southern University head coach Dawson Odums.
Coach Odom, Lionel Franklin, the Jaguar Show here. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Great. Coach, you guys have gotten off to a lot of fast starts this year as opposed to last year. Kind of two-part question. What's the reason for those fast starts and going up against Alabama State, who's the second in total defense in the conference? What's the plan to keep that going?
Well, I was all to our scout teams. I mean, we're in a unique situation here. We got scout teams, and due to certification and the ineligibility of some players, we got some good players on scout teams that are sitting out this year. So we get challenged in practice. It's a game Monday through Friday. It's a game. Well, we have more walkthrough on Friday, but Monday through Thursday, it's a true game at practice, and we challenge those scouts. If they win, they don't have to run. If the offense and defensive units and special teams win, then they got to run. So, those guys don't like running because, we late in the year, we're still running because we know that, we got to close out football games and you got to be fresh in the fourth quarter and you can't make minimal mistakes. But I owe it all to our scout team.
Coach, this is Chris Jones. How you doing?
Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. In an environment where you know that you have roughly 50-50 between the visiting team and the home team, and you know that possibly could be more in your favor, how important was it for you guys to kind of just take the wheel of Jackson State early in that game on Saturday?
Well, I just think it's important to get off to a fast start. You never know, how football games go turn out, but you like your chances when you can get off to a fast start. And I really thought we did that. You want the momentum early, especially when you're on the road. When you're at home, if things don't go your way, you have a crowd that can really get behind you and get you going. I thought we had a great crowd up at Jackson State, but that by Jackson State helmets and shoulder pads, we don't get to see any of that money. So I hope we can have those kind of crowds at home where we can invest in our program and take more pride in coming to the home games, because I heard them earlier say, we do take a lot of people on the road, but they help pay the light bill somewhere else, and, we need to try to do a better job of paying the one that's here. So we look forward to our fans. I challenge them the next 3 home games, come out, man, and support this football team and try to root them on to victory.
Coach, a follow-up question. One of the ways to get the fans out is to see a talent like Willie Quinn. Just talk about what type of player he is and how electrifying he's been these last couple of weeks and mainly this entire season.
Well, I think every year you got to have if you go be in contention to win championships, you got to have championship playmakers. And we know that once he touched the football, he has a chance to go the distance. And you got to also have somebody on the team that people look at when they watch film. They have to pay attention to him. So if you have to take 2 people and cover him, then, you leaving somebody else one-on-one. And our wide receiver core is so special that it's hard for you to leave any of those guys one-on-one. So, and we like those matchups. And then our running backs are catching the ball out of the backfield. When your offensive line can protect and your quarterback can distribute the football, when you got a talent like Willie Quinn that takes the pressure off everybody, you really have a chance to be a special unit.
Hey, Coach, it's Les East. You mentioned the offensive line earlier. I think y'all only given up a handful of sacks the entire season. Can you just talk about the factors that go into protecting the quarterback so well, especially with the changes you've had on the line?
Well, exactly. I think our offensive line coach is taking the way he teaches offensive line. We have coaching seminars where every coach usually get up and teach their position right before we start camp. So the way he teaches, any coach that listened to him day one would be able to go in and teach the offensive line. We got rules and we got our daily dues, and he's a stickler for all that. And the number one thing they pride themselves on is protecting the quarterback and opening up running lanes for the running back. Seems like no matter who we plug in there, they're coached up and ready to play. I really think he's one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, and I'm blessed to have him. We worked together before in the past when I was a defensive line coach, so I understand the techniques and the attention to detail that and the amount of time that he invests in his guys is the reason why you see the production that you see from those guys on the field. I mean, a handful of the sacks through 8 games is a testament to the coaches and the players with the position of offensive line.
Which we've seen some pretty good play from both Shorts and Howard. What do you kind of give more credit to, gameplay or practice, as far as who you decide to is going to be at the head?
Guys do what's right on and off the field. It's all about discipline and accountability right here, and we stick with 4. This program requires you to have certain kind of expectations, and it requires you to carry yourself in a certain fashion. And that's really what it comes down to. And you have to understand that on and off the field, you're gonna be scrutinized. So because you're the quarterback in the face of the program. So we hold that position to even higher expectations. And the guy that can perform the best and meet those expectations is the one that plays.
Coach, what's the message this week to the players? Obviously, when you talk about the Jackson State rivalry game as well as the Bayou Classic, that's 2 games on your schedule that you're not going to have to talk your players up, so to speak. What's the message going forward in this week after such a huge win on the road?
Well, I mean, I just think we never get too high when we win, and we never get too low in the loss. I think it's even kill. I mean, it's Monday. We're on to the next game. We got to put our game plans in. We got to get our focus on the next opponent. And one thing about football, if you win, you got a chance. And that's what it's all about. We're on to the next game, and the message is clear. It's our job to go out and make sure we give ourselves a chance to win the football game. And that takes you guys doing your responsibility. And if you do that, everything should take care of itself. We're glad to be at home. We think it'll be a great environment. And we look forward to getting this football team prepared to play against a very good Alabama State football team. Coach Barlow got a talented football team. They dropped some close games, but you got Cyrus, who's probably one of the top running backs in the conference, and Duhart throws the ball around. They got wide receivers that can catch it. Number 10, he's up there in the stats, and one of the top defenses in the conference. So it's gonna be a test. We don't have time to worry about the game we just won. We got a good opponent coming in here. We need to get ready for.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you joining us today.
Oh, thank you all. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks a lot. That's Dawson, Odums head coach at Southern University. His team will host Alabama State this Saturday at 6 p.m. Next up on the call, we go to Texas Southern University and Darrell Asbury. His team was defeated by Arkansas at Pine Bluff. They will host Grambling State this Saturday at 5:30. Good morning, Coach Asbury.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. If you could recap your game with Arkansas Pine Bluff and preview Grambling State.
It was a tough loss for homecoming. I thought the game went back and forth. I had talked to Coach Coleman in his program. I said last week that he has a talented program. They just hadn't had breaks go their way, and those guys came out ready to play. And I don't take anything away from our kids. I thought our kids played well enough to win. The kids' fault, they didn't quit. I thought as a coaching staff there were some things that we could have done a little bit better. But again, it's over with now, and we need to get ready for Grambling because the road doesn't get any easier for us.
The floor is now open for Darrell Asbury, head coach at Texas Southern.
Coach Andrew Roberts. Homer Causey came back after being out the past few games with injury. Assess his play, please.
I thought Homer came in and did a great job for the program. I mean, you can, like I said earlier, we've been banged up. We've had about 8 starters down, and you could tell the difference when Homer and Larry Clark and the rest of those guys were out there. And defensively, we got Amir Bloom back. He was out there about 75%, but he was giving us what he had. I thought Homer moved the football. The team responded to him. And as a quarterback, that's what you need. And he made plays with his legs. He's not 100% healthy, but he made plays when he had to make them, and he sat in the pocket and threw the football well.
Coach, just to follow up to that question, Larry Clark III also returned. He had some big catches in crunch time. The team almost looks like it has a different dynamic with him in that third receiver slot with Malik and Fred Plummer. Just talk a little bit about what having him back did for the team.
Well, it was huge for us. He came back at the right time. We've been struggling at that position. Playing that slot receiver in this offense is a huge position because you have to be able to read the coverages on the run. And he does such a great job of doing that, knowing when to sit in the zone, knowing when to stay on the move. And I thought the chemistry was finally back with him and the rest of those guys along with Kazi.
Coach Asbury, Cubans, KTSU. Talk about the play of Davion Porter this season.
Porter's been tremendous. I mean, he's a kid that came off of knee surgery. We didn't know if he would be ready for the first game, but he's been playing ever since day one, the Prairie View game. So we've been very pleased with his performance. Anytime he can run the football, then he gets out of the backfield. I think he had about 7 catches for 80-something yards out of the backfield, 180-something yards rushing. I thought he has been very huge for this program. I know we'll hate to see him go, but he's a young man that life after the game, if there's anything I could ever do for him, I will.
Coach Lionel Franklin of the Jaguar Show. Looking at some of the statistical categories, this is really a game about matchups. I think you guys can hang around if this ball game turns into a shootout.
I do. I really do. I think if we can continue to stay healthy, we can keep Homer healthy. Our offensive line has done a great job. We've done a good job of staying healthy up front. I think we'll be able to, hopefully it won't turn into a shootout, but if it does, just like this past weekend, it turned into a shootout. And, as a football team, we have to come together in all three phases of the game and find a way to win. I thought the kids played to their talent level. We matched the intensity early, with Pine Bluff. It was our homecoming. As a coaching staff, I just think we need to do some things better.
Coach, obviously this game is going to mean a lot when it comes to Western Division standings. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're telling your kids as far as you and Grambling being resurgent teams locking up here in a big game for both of you guys?
Well, like I told the kids on yesterday, we're not out of it. I know we have some naysayers out there that think that Texas Southern is out of it. We're not out of it. We can take care of the business this week, which Grambling is going to come in. They're rolling. Coach has done a great job with his program. They're in control right now. But if we can throw a roadblock right there and fortunate enough get a win on Saturday, and then get ready to go down to Southern, and then we'll worry about the Bayou Classic. Those guys beating up on each other down the road. But right now, I think, like I told the kids, we are not out of the Western Division Championship. We just need to take care of our business. We would have loved to get the win on Saturday, which would have made it a little bit more better for us. Now we have to, we just have to win out.
Do we have any more questions for Darrell Asbury?
Coach Asbury, what do you tell, even though it's a devastating loss on homecoming, what do you tell your team, your players, to basically just shrug it off, just think about Grambling? That was in the past. What do you just basically tell your players, just think about the Grambling game?
Well, like I told those kids, tough times don't last long, but tough people do. That was a tough loss. We got it. We talked about it Sunday night. We cried about it. We went back to work on Sunday evening, on Saturday night, should I say, and then we went back to work Sunday evening. We were back in the weight room, conditioning, back in film study. So we have to move on. We can't let Grambling Pine Bluff beat us 2 weekends in a row. So the kids were very positive. Everybody was on time. No one was complaining. I think the biggest thing right now, and the kids even said it themselves, is alignment and assignment. Making sure we get lined up right, making sure we're executing the plays that were called, and making sure that we all giving 100% in all three phases of the game.
Coach, homecoming was a good game as far as attendance, a lot of fan support from Texas Southern. Just talk a little bit about what that meant and also what it means to have that type of support when you're going to face an opponent like Grambling State.
Well, I think it'd be very important. Again, the kids were very excited about the attendance. We definitely will need that same support coming into Grambling, because we know they're going to bring everybody. Grambling is the hot team right now, and we're going to need that support for our fans to come out and continue to support this football team. We still have a good football team. These kids have given it all to Texas Southern, and we would really appreciate it if the fans would come out and support them.